Story 1. Huge amounts of random, obscure facts about things they, or 99% of the population, do not care about. They go on for hours on end. They may let you leave so they do not have to hear them again. Not only do you go free, but you might be able to win trivia night at your local bar too. A win-win situation. Story 2. Probably start by explaining the difference between various types of cannabis and the intricacies of how to grow it. Elaborate in a very detailed way until they either stop me or let me go. To people who do not know or care about marijuana, I am told it is extremely annoying. Story 3. I asked my wife this question. Here was her answer. I would totally use Stockholm Syndrome on him, start naming all the children we are going to have together. I would chant, "I have a boyfriend," for hours when left alone, call my captor Pookie Bear, and just make it really awkward for him. Like keep asking him, "When are you going to grab me, Pookie Bear?" Awkward. Story 4. Are we talking about some two-bit buffoons from the neighborhood, or are we talking about people in it for the cause? Two different paths. Story 5. I am a neurodivergent nerd. In social settings, I am constantly restraining my need to share excessive information. I hope the listeners are ready to learn about biology, fandom drama, my pet peeve about war creature fiction becoming romantic fantasy, the fact that alternative biological orientations were never true for actual wolves, that the fanfiction trend started with a Winchester Brothers fanfiction, and whatever else comes to mind. If I run out of topics, I improvise. Story 6. Ask them deep, personal questions at 2 a.m. like, "Do you think your father's absence impacted your moral compass?" And give them unsolicited therapy. Story 7. I'm thinking of something orange. Something orange. Orange. Give up? It's an orange. Okay. Now I'm thinking of something blue. Something blue. Proceeds to sing the Bonanza theme song loudly. Story 8. Either be like that kid who got kidnapped and just kept singing gospel music until they let him out, or be on some Meg stuff and keep asking if they think I am pretty and why no one wants me. Story 9. Be my pure unmasked self. Just keep talking about everything and anything. Ask for food that upsets my stomach and have them deal with it. My parents always told us that kidnappers would give us back because we would annoy them to death. It is time to prove them right. Story 10. I was terrified. I begged to be killed. I said I did not care what they did to me, so just get on with it. Story 11. Act like a complete schizophrenic. Also, guess their names. If I am wrong, I just sound even more crazy. If I am right, I genuinely creep them out. Story 12. I would whisper at a volume they can hear and pretend I am not aware that they can hear me. I stop whispering once they are around. I say things like an approximate location by giving random coordinates and describe the building I am in. Story 13. Refuse to leave even after being freed. A kidnapping sounds like a nice break from being on constant mother duty and homeschooling, especially if they offer Skyrim. I would just sit in the corner for 23 hours a day in my happy place, killing dragons in Falmer. Now, if they refuse to provide me with a copy of Skyrim, all bets are off. Story 14. I know a little about hundreds of subjects, and I can converse about all of them. I am also able to make things up as I go. Non-stop talking about mundane topics is my superpower. For example, I can remember every shot from the last 5 rounds of golf that I played. Story 15. Just be myself. Start to mentor them and give them advice on life and career. Convince them that if this is what they want to do in life, they should strive to be the best and start out on their own. They will return to their families, but they will be better people because of me, and we will probably keep in touch on social media. Story 16. I've lived through this. The last thing on my mind was how to annoy those people. I was more on an if things go wrong, I'll go out swinging. Until then, play it cool. Story 17. Do my best to create Lima syndrome. I would thank them for saving me from my difficult life and for caring about me when nobody else did. I would tell them they are amazing, wonderful, and all the good things. I would compliment their great taste in people because I am one of the best. I would also praise their wonderful fashion sense, fabulous decor, and their skills as great caregivers. They should consider helping others who need their guidance and care. Story 18. Hey, can you get me some water? I'm thirsty. Oh wait, are those pretzels? I'd like some of those too. I'm bored. Let's play a game like chess or something. You're all about strategy, right? I just contracted a serious illness, so you should probably take me to the hospital. You don't care? Well, it's contagious. I'm an orphan. Thank you for adopting me. What a kind act from a stranger. Story 19. I will talk through everything that happened with my former partner. I am over her and would never get back together with her. But I am still angry about what she did. It was very messy, and my friends and family are tired of hearing about it. Story 20. I do not have a sense of smell, so I would defecate in the corner and let the odor spread throughout my confined space. Story 21. Repeat my name. Never stop talking about my loved ones. Make it so they see me as a person, not an object to get what they want. Story 22. I can climax just with imagination hands-free, so I would keep climaxing constantly. To what effect, no idea. Story 23. I am Henry VIII. John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, his name is my name too. There was an old lady who swallowed a fly. Over and over until they are begging me to leave. Story 24. By being myself. I am generally a very annoying person unless you get used to me or know how to handle my tangents. Story 25. Trauma dumping followed by information dumping, tied off nicely with belting out every song at the top of my voice that comes through my head, including substituting vocalized guitar riffs and drum solos to fill the gap of forgotten lyrics and commercial jingles. Maybe wash it down with some foreign accent and celebrity and character impression practice. Story 26. I would use my ADHD hyperfixations to my advantage. First, I would share every space fact I know, as an astronomy enthusiast. Once I run out of space facts, I would move on to ancient Egypt and explain the Osiris myth, the harvesting process of Murex shells for purple dye, and how their society and culture functioned. Story 27. Play Shawn Mendes music, Baby Shark, and the alphabet song on repeat. To make it even better or worse, I would sing along loudly every single time. Story 28. I assume if I tried talking to them until boredom or annoyance, they would eventually just gag me. I would ask for a big glass of ice-cold whole milk. The next week is going to be difficult for everyone, but at least I have had a few years to get used to the smell of lactose-intolerant flatulence. I doubt they would last more than a few seconds in the room with me. They might even take me to a hospital, assuming there is something seriously wrong. Story 29. Singing ridiculous repetitive songs. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Or let your hair hang down. 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 Story 30. Assuming I wanted to annoy them, I would channel my Slavic ancestors and give them constant unwanted advice with the clear implication that I thought they were idiots who needed handholding through a basic kidnapping. I would add a big heaping dose of offended passive-aggressiveness and maybe a guilt trip if I could work one in. I bet I could sound just like my grandmother if I really decided to get under their skin. Story 31. 1. Dennis the Menace style. 2. I only know a few parts of a couple of songs. 3. Clean and decorate the place like I am moving in now. Squatters' rights. Story 32. Sing every song I know off-key and really loud. As an added bonus, I have an overactive bladder. Use your imagination on that one. I would not tell them I needed to go. I would let them know afterward. My disability would become my advantage. Story 33. Honestly, just being myself. I am crazy annoying. I do not care about the kidnappers' feelings, so I will not try to control that like I usually do. Story 34. If you want me to stay alive long enough to achieve your goal, you will need to get these very rare, expensive medications that I will die without. Story 35. Complete obedience, like an excessive and unhealthy amount of affection toward the captor. Then, at the last minute of every confrontation, physically overpower them. Story 36. Boy released by kidnapper after singing gospel music. Story 37. I would recite everything I know about music in a stream of consciousness fashion, letting segues drive the monologue and pepper it with, "Oh, did I already say that?" throughout. It is the only subject that I am sure I could drone on about for weeks without interesting a single person. Now, they would eventually shut my mouth. When that happens, I will hum every song I know. Story 38. Repeatedly singing the Beverly Hillbillies theme song, opening and closing versions. You all come back now, here. Story 39. In Quebec, there is a song where you basically repeat, me, I know a song to bother everyone, over and over until the person becomes annoyed. Story 40. Annoy them with my nearly encyclopedic knowledge of Star Wars lore, then bridge it into deep story analysis. They will beg me to leave in about an hour. Story 41. Start discussing the various storylines on The Real Housewives, with deep dives into the older seasons in particular. Might do some Ramona impressions. Story 42. They will know the plot of my entire Homebrew Dungeons & Dragons campaign and every little detail of lore about the world. Story 43. By not having anyone who loves me enough to pay a ransom. Edit. In fact, my wife stands to gain about $1,200,000 if something happens to me. Story 44. You're doing this all wrong. Oh yeah? Yeah. You all have cell phones on your person right now. They'll trace those from the global positioning system pings. If they really want to track you, they'll follow the pings off local wireless fidelity networks. They can't do that, can they? Oh yeah, they can. Also, do us both a favor and keep your masks on. What? Why? Because if I see your faces, then you'll have to kill me to avoid getting caught. And I know that, so it means I'll have to struggle and make this whole experience worse for everyone. So just keep them on. How about we blindfold you? Then I can't help you guys with your mistakes. Like, I hope the license plate on the van was stolen from some random car. Amateurs. Story 45. Below Deck explores complex relationships, diverse personalities, and romances among the crew members. The show highlights the challenges and dynamics of working together in close quarters. Central to the series is Kate Chastain, whose professionalism, wit, and leadership bring both respect and admiration. Her presence adds depth and glory to the narrative, making her an unforgettable figure in the Below Deck story. Story 46. Tell them dad jokes. Either we will end up being friends because they actually think it is funny, or they are going to tell me to go away because they cannot stand it anymore. Story 47. I heard about a child who was kidnapped a few years ago. The child repeatedly sang, "Jesus loves me," and the kidnapper eventually released him. Whether the kidnapper was annoyed or converted, I am not sure. Story 48. No meaningful content found to process. Story 49. Ask questions about abduction, how it is done, how to choose a target, and learn everything possible. Story 50. Start narrating everything that they are doing. John turned on the light. John spent 4.5 minutes in the bathroom. John did not wash his hands. Story 51. Mockingbird. Now everybody, have you heard? She is going to buy me a mockingbird. And if that mockingbird does not sing, she is going to buy me a diamond ring. And if that diamond ring will not shine. Story 52. If my kidnappers were in the United States, I would just tell them I was Mexican, and that would be all I would need to do. Then my kidnapper would not send me to a horrible place. Story 53. As a 12-year-old Terraria addict, I would tell them how epic my world is and how I am about to beat the game and some things like that. Story 54. Not gonna lie, if I was ever kidnapped, it would be one of those awkward situations where I do not know what to do, so I would just be smiling like a maniac. I do not know why, but I get this huge psychopathic smile when I feel anxious. Like smiling so wide that I literally cannot hide my teeth, which just makes the entire situation worse. Then I feel more anxious, which causes me to smile even wider, and it becomes a disaster. Why am I like this? Story 55. I would psychoanalyze every single thing aloud, overshare, and misinterpret threats as compliments. Story 56. I am going to be here for a while. I will tell you some facts, then spend my time in captivity talking about history, firearms, airplanes, biology, and physics. Story 57. I know a song that gets on everybody's nerves. Everybody's nerves. Everybody's nerves. I know a song that gets on everybody's nerves, and this is how it goes. Story 58. Crazy? I was crazy once. They put me in a room. Padded room with rats. They put me in a padded room with rubber rats. Rats? Rats make me crazy. Story 59. I would tell them that when my ransom gets paid, I will hunt them down and hang them all. I will say it pleasantly, though, so they will not believe me until it is too late. Story 60. I would be very clingy and ask many questions repeatedly without stopping. Basically, I would act like a toddler. They would either reject me or send me back. Story 61. I have ulcerative colitis, so if I passed gas once, the smell would be enough for them to return me or dispose of me. It is a win-win situation. Story 62. Give unsolicited feedback on all their plans. Are you sure you want to do the exchange at the police station? It seems a little risky. Story 63. I can make a sound that is almost exactly like dripping water. I used to do it on long car rides and make my parents get all red-faced and insane. I bet I am loose in 72 hours at most. Story 64. I would only speak to them in a rare but existing constructed language that I happen to somewhat know and completely fail to understand any other language when spoken to, as a result of the shock of having been kidnapped. If they wish to communicate with me, they will have to use it. Story 65. 2. Tell them the entirety of Greek mythology. 3. Would you like to join the Church of our Dark Lord and Savior? 4. Are we there yet? 5. Sing every song I have saved in my brain in the loudest, most obnoxious voice. 6. Act as insane and schizophrenic as possible. 7. Critique their kidnapping and tell them they should pursue something else like burglary or arson, then say they probably would not even be good at that because they are just that useless. 8. Flirt with them. 9. Make them my therapist. Story 66. I am going to enthusiastically explain the Star Wars expanded universe in great detail, from Knights of the Old Republic to the New Jedi Order. They will either be interested and let me continue or become irritated enough to stop me. Story 67. I would tell them I had herpes and describe every sexually transmitted disease in great detail. I would talk about unpleasant things like urine, feces, burping, and vomiting. I would share traumatic experiences from my life, then say how lucky I was that someone thought I was worth kidnapping. Story 68. Talk incessantly. Then fidget a lot. Make lots of eye contact with where I assume their eyes are as I expect masks. Tap my fingers. Exist. Story 69. These 2 songs on repeat forever. Story 70. I was kidnapped and held against my will. Someone carjacked me at gunpoint, forced me to drive them to a remote location, took my wallet and keys, and told me to perform inappropriate acts. However, that does not happen to me because I am a man. I have also been assaulted by a transgender person, which is rare. I have strong feelings about society. Story 71. I learned this from my older brother. He is now 70 and started when he was 60. He talks a lot and often goes off topic, no matter who is speaking. If someone asks you to repeat that, or pass the salt, or says, what? You just look at them and say, what? Back. Story 72. I am thinking of something orange. Something orange. Give up? It is an orange. Okay. Now I am thinking of something blue. Something blue. Story 73. Listen to their conversations so I can share interesting facts at every opportunity. Oh, that's because... Oh, yes, it originates from a time when... Oh, I know why it happens. Story 74. Talk non-stop about Collingwood, an extremely hated football team, and how they are going to win the championship and should not have lost against Fremantle. It is an Australian thing. Story 75. Sing Feliz Navidad at the top of my lungs, completely in my very poor Spanish, and just making up lyrics as the day progresses. Story 76. I am with you because I choose to be here. Do you know what are the chances a psychopath gets kidnapped? Or are we there yet? Story 77. When one has 2 people holding 9mm pistols on both sides of their chest, then you do whatever they say. I asked an embassy regional security officer afterward what I should have done differently. He said whatever I did was correct because I lived through it. Story 78. This is the song that never ends. It goes on, my friend. Some people started singing it not knowing what it was, and they will continue singing forever just because. Story 79. Irritate them enough to the point where they will likely respond roughly. Then proceed with moaning and saying, NGH, harder, daddy, or NGH, harder, mommy. Story 80. You are probably richer than me and my family. Fail in life. Fail in kidnapping. Pick a different profession. You are not good at this. Story 81. I would provoke them by saying the Nintendo Switch 2 is better than personal computers and any other gaming platform available. Story 82. I would sing. No one, and I repeat, no one could handle that for more than a minute. I would either be dead or let go. Story 83. I would probably keep saying I am hungry. If they feed me, I would probably be unhappy with their food. My girlfriend spoils me with her cooking. Story 84. At the moment, finally my annoying pregnancy symptoms are useful. I will swap back and forth between vomiting everywhere and crying while oversharing all my anxieties. If that does not work, I will just rant about my dislike for the rise of Skywalker until they make me leave. Story 85. Criticize his approach and give him better kidnapping tips. Also, excitedly beg to get untied so he can finally grab me, though it would sound like I am the one wanting to grab him, to be honest. Start talking about our life together, naming the kids and all that. Also, show my unmasked self. Completely nuts with all hyperfixations. Make up my whole life story because I am bored and want to lie. Let him feel like he knows me. Then say, ha ha ha. No, I do not have a sister. That whole week of me sharing our moments together was lies. Story 86. Every time they threaten me, they call it unoriginal and say how they clearly do not care about their job and provide a better and more extreme one. Then, if they try to use it, I say I have heard it before or that it is an information dump. Story 87. They are going to learn so much about demonetized foreign coins, vintage film slide cases, and dissociative disorders. Story 88. This is not even a question for me. I simply open my mouth to speak, and it is anyone's guess what is going to come spilling out. It does not end there. It transforms into a seemingly random story, mundane yet equally fascinating. Unsurprisingly, the story ends in a slow disruption because I have lost focus, yet I exert a decent amount of energy maintaining the same level of excitement until the final ending, when at last it all ends in a melancholy record scratch. And the cycle begins again. This will either save my life or kill me, one or the other for absolute sure. Story 89. If they have duct taped my mouth, I would just share all my information or trauma with them. Then, when they do, I would hum or sing through the duct tape. Soiling yourself is another option since they would have to deal with the smell if they keep you, or they could just abandon you somewhere. You would be alive at least if it is the second option. Story 90. Probably by correcting their grammar. I am just assuming I would not attract a Hans Gruber-level kidnapper. Story 91. Are we there yet? Story 92. Compliments. Constant compliments. All about how the kidnapping was perfect. The strength involved was exactly what it should be. But then passive-aggressive comments in between. Maybe you could have been a bit more aggressive. But who am I? I've never kidnapped anyone before. But God, did you look good doing it? So compliment, passive-aggressive remark, compliment sandwich. Laugh out loud. Story 93. Ask how long they plan to keep me because my family does not have ransom money, and no one is going to pay to get me back. At that point, they have a bigger problem. Story 94. I would not want to annoy them at all for fear of being slapped. I would become passive and compliant instantly. Story 95. Embody the spirit of my mother-in-law, whom I greatly admire. She was so extraordinary that people would pay me to stop and let me continue. Story 96. Years ago, as a teenager, what started as simply giving a few people I barely knew a ride home ended with them stealing my father's car, taking me hostage, and planning to kill me. One of the four men who sat on my right whispered to me that he thought this was a joyride. He did not want any part of it and planned to open the door the next time we stopped so we could run. He also prevented the man on the other side of me from stabbing me. However, within an hour, 3 police cars pulled us over before we entered the main city. My father, who never did this before or since, decided to teach me a lesson because I was always late coming home when I borrowed his car. He called the police on me. Yes, I was praying. Story 97. I am very skilled at repeatedly sharing random facts and opinions about movies, actors, bands, and singers that no one cares about. Just ask my husband. Story 98. I please people by showing genuine care. I try not to be too obvious about my intentions. I use psychological techniques to help them see me as human. I do not want them to harm me. I watch a lot of true crime, and this is the best way to stay safe. If someone does try to harm you, fight as hard as you can. Also, take any opportunity to escape, hopefully without failing and being harmed. Story 99. My latest obsession, which has taken over my life for the past 10 months, is Transformers. They will either return my excitement, or I finally get to share my enthusiasm with someone. Story 100. I am terrible at telling stories, like Simone from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, combined with the teacher. Story 101. Are we there yet? Story 102. They would not get me in the first place. I have perfected the corpse flop. Have you ever seen Peter Griffin try to get that dead frog out of the window? Story 103. Singing Cotton Eye Joe at the top of my lungs non-stop until they release me. Then I kidnap them and do it some more. Mess with me at your peril. Story 104. I would start by explaining how I would rewrite the Warhammer 40,000 lore, with special emphasis on the Age of Strife, Unification, and Horus Heresy. I would continue all the way up to the modern setting so they understand my approach. Story 105. Constantly criticize Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition and go into extreme levels of detail about how much better Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 edition is. I am actually autistic in case anyone is about to get triggered. Story 106. Not hearing what they said but guessing and repeating something very inaccurate that makes no sense. Just ask my poor husband how insane it makes him. Story 107. Singing soft, moody songs about despair, then acting like a smoky film noir protagonist with big dewy eyes in every aspect of the situation. Sigh. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.